I firstly want to pay tribute to my honourable friend for North Ayrshire, Nairn. Her opening speech was blistering and brilliant, and I think she speaks for many of our constituents and for those members who cannot be here today. And we have to remember, as other members have said, that WASPI women are not just some distant, transient group. They're real people with real lives. And this injustice has had real impacts. Their mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, sisters, aunts, carers, daughters, and many of them have passed away just during the process of us trying to secure justice for them. And I find it remarkable, actually, that the Ombudsman report has got so, and the Ombudsman itself has such little faith in the government that it is turning to Parliament to try and find a resolution and a remedy. And we owe it to those WASPI women. We have taken office, all of us, we have taken an oath of office to our constituents and to those WASPI women to find a resolution and to find a solution, because it has sadly become the business of this government to kick the can down the road on whatever issue it is, whether it's the Horizon scandal, whether it's Primados, whether it's contaminated blood. It seems to have become an ingrained and institutional habit to kick the can down the road and make those who have suffered at the hands of government wait even longer. And I would suggest that, a member opposite made a point about the cost of redress and the cost of remedy. And of course, we have to recognise that. But in doing so, we also have to recognise the money that has been spent by the civil service, the money and time that has been spent just by our constituency staff and all of us. And I would suspect that the amount of money that has been spent on this report and the time is probably almost equal to the money that needs to be paid to bring WASPI women redress. And while we're looking at what remedies we can find and what money can be sought, perhaps we should be looking at proceeds of crime money. Perhaps we should be looking at the Russian oligarchs who need to have their assets seized or have had their assets seized, and proper sanctions against those who launder money and the dirty money that flows through the financial institutions of the United Kingdom. Because I've sat on bills in this House and seen the government take lacklustre approach and action. The money is there. It's about political will, as my honourable friend said. And I have had many representations from the 6,500 WASPI women in my Livingston constituency. And today, Mr Deputy Speaker, I want to give them a voice. Constituents like Shirley Sharp, who was born in October 1954. She took early retirement from the Scottish Government in December 2008, she said, when she was 54. Before deciding to leave, she contacted the Pension Service and received her forecast. She said, "I knew when I left my job I would receive my pension on the 6th of the 3rd, 2019, when I was 64 years and 6 months old. After I left, another 18 months was added to my pension, which I couldn't make provision for. To add insult to injury," she said, "my husband is 8 months older than me and he received his pension 14 months before I did. If it was about equality, why was I penalised 6 months more than a male counterpart? I've been in receipt of my state pension now since the 6th of 9, 2020. I am still very angry about this whole thing, how this whole thing has been handled." Another constituent who didn't want to be named took early retirement from the civil service and looked after elderly relatives for 4 years until 11 months before her 60th birthday. At that point, her sister asked if she was planning on getting a part-time job. She said she was exhausted and she could manage financially as long as she got her pension in 11 months' time. She couldn't believe it when she was told that her pension age would be 66. She thought the DWP were, in her words, pulling her leg. Now, I phoned the DWP, who confirmed that, she said, and she'd never had any communication whatsoever. Another constituent, Anne Seenan, she missed out on £14,000, having had her state pension delayed by 2 years. She said, "I never received any communication from the Department of Work and Pensions." Another constituent, Diane Risbrigger. "Unfortunately," she said, "I'm one of the women affected by a chronic, life-limiting illness which adds to the distress, as well as being born a mere 3 weeks after the cut-off date for appealing, so a double whammy in her case." And another constituent who I know is watching, Jill Parton, an incredible woman who I know well. She says, unfortunately, I'm one of the tens of thousands of women born in the 1950s who've been badly affected by the rapid rise in state pension age for women. I worked part-time while I was training to become a teacher and started full-time working in August 1975 when I was 20. I always expected I would receive my state pension at the age of 60. I married in 1977 and worked full-time. She took 6 months off to have both of her children, and her husband and her separated before her son was born. She found out that she wouldn't receive her state pension at 60 during a staff meeting, and she reminded me today that her divorce settlement, like many of our constituents, was predicated on when she was going to get her state pension. She unfortunately also lives with the diagnosis of diffuse corneal dystrophy, and the unpredictability of that meant she couldn't teach because of the impact that teaching under bright lights would have had. She said, I find it very difficult to understand the government's position on this. While they are making tens of thousands of women work until they're 66, we have even more young people who can't get jobs. For the mental health of all concerned, would it not be more economical to allow the 60-plus women to retire and the young jobless to have the jobs of those women? Mental health worries affect many people, and she is deeply concerned about the impact that it will have and that it has had not just on her, but any others. The bottom line, Mr Deputy Speaker, is this was a social contract between our constituents and the government. And many of these women have suffered great discrimination throughout their lives, have not been able to pay their full stamp, as it was called back in the day, and had no idea. Now, it's not good enough for some to say that communication was adequate. Putting out a press release is not proper communication. And this is something that the government will need to get a grip on and understand the profound impact that it has had on other constituents of mine: Susan Aitken, Cho Atkinson, Shirley Sharp, Elizabeth Donnelly, Linda Howison, Meg Wilson, Marion Wright, Margaret Diamond, Anne Waugh, Gloria Fairgrieve. I wanted to read their names out because they are real people with real lives, and this is having a real impact on them. If there is one decent thing that this government could do before it's booted out of office, is give the WASPI women the justice that they deserve.
Matt Vickers.
Thank you.